Hello, so my name is Lily and this is my first booktube video. I have been watching booktube since I was in middle school. I've always loved it. I've always wanted to do it and now I am. So today I am going to be ranking every single book I read in 2024. I hope you're not burnt out on end of year content. I know it's well into the new year, but I'm gonna be doing this in like the song sorter style where like the code pits each book or song or whatever you're ranking against each other individually and then ranks them, because with a bracket you'll come out with your favorite book at the end, but the journey to get there isn't like an accurate ranking. It just depends on what order you put the books in. So I wanted to do it this way so that I could know, and I thought this would be sort of a good way to get to know my reading for my first video. A little about my 2024 reading stats. I read 100 books. If any of this math, by the way, for these stats don't add up, I listened to 58 audiobooks and read 42 physical books. 20 of the books I read were rereads. 39, this might not make sense, 39 of the books I read I previously knew about, and even if they weren't on my physical TBR, I still like vaguely wanted to read them. And 44 of them I didn't know anything about when I read them. And this is not including the rereads. So I don't think that math actually adds up, but it's okay. Okay, I had 0 1-star books, 8 2-stars, 23 3-stars, 34 stars, and 24 5-stars. Of those 24 5-stars, 12 were rereads. Half of those were me like rereading some of my favorite books. Yeah, so in reality I had 12 5-stars. Oh, and there were 5, 10, 14 books that I didn't rate. Of the 50, this is a rough stat for me, honestly. Of the 58 audiobooks that I listened to, only 11 of them I enjoyed enough to purchase and own and put on my bookshelves after the fact. That's a hard one. Out of all of those audiobooks, whoa. Some of the audiobooks I listened to, I didn't count this. I tried to, I got confused. But some of them were books I have on my physical TBR and I just listened to the audio version of them because it was available at my library. So the way I set up this sorter is I excluded books that were rereads because like the books I reread are my favorite books, so they would always just beat everything else out. And then most of the series I read I grouped together just as one thing, unless it was a duology that I could easily tell I liked one book way more than the other. If it was a duology that like they were both the same level, I kept them together, but mostly there was a difference in the quality of the first book in the series and the second. So, but for longer series, I can't tell them apart. Let's just get into the sorting. Now is Not the Time to Panic by Kevin Wilson versus The Extraordinary Series by TJ Klune. It's gonna be Now is Not the Time to Panic. The Extraordinary Series, I read the first book when it came out, so that is a reread, but I never finished the series. I really liked it, the first book. I was in like middle school. Rereading it, I was like, this was the book that I loved. But then I went on to finish the series and it was bad. It was bad. I did not enjoy it. So definitely Now is Not the Time to Panic. Loved, loved, loved this book. Oh my god. Loved it. Okay. Wake of the Bones by Elizabeth Kilcoyne and Daughter of Smoke and Bone, the whole series by Laini Taylor. Again, this, I had read the first Daughter of Smoke and Bone book years ago when I was like 10, 12, I don't know. And I never finished the series, even though I loved the first book. So this is me ranking the entire series. And I liked it better than Wake the Bones. Wake the Bones was fine. It's like Southern haunting teenagers. It was good. It was fine, yeah. It wasn't bad by any means. But Daughter of Smoke and Bone, I think it's just such a creative concept. I really haven't seen anything else like it, like ever. So maybe there is stuff and I just don't know about it. But this, I think it's like really original. So, ooh, Oh gosh, okay. The Husbands by Holly Gramazio and The Sunshine Court by Nora Sakovic. Okay. You know about The Husbands. Everyone knows about The Husbands. I love The Husbands, gave it 5 stars. The Sunshine Court by Nora Sakovic. This is the 4th book in the All for the Game series. It's about a fictional sport called Exy, and our main character, Neil, is on the run from his mob boss father. And he decides to join this collegiate Exy team, just because. The captain of the team ends up being someone sort of from his past, and so he's keeping secrets, he's trying to figure out secrets, he's trying to stay hidden from his father, and it's really, it's a very specific thing. Look up every trigger warning. People often say, oh my god, it's the worst book ever, it's the worst book you'll ever read, and it's like, it's not bad. It's like, obviously it has like a very cult following. It's not bad. The writing, I think it's good. People say, oh, the writing's terrible. I think it's good. Whoa. Anyways, it's a very specific audience, and it's the type of thing like you'll know if it's for you or not within like the first few chapters. But anyways, this 4th book is following a completely different character, and I like, is it better than The Husbands? Probably not, probably no. But did I like it more? Nostalgia is really baiting me right now, but I think I have to choose The Sunshine Court. I think I do. Carve the Mark, the series by Veronica Roth, and Honey by Isabel Banta. Carve the Mark, okay, again, I read Carve the Mark when it came out, didn't read the second one. This, reread the first one, read the second one, counting them as a whole. Honey was such a disappointment. Perhaps my most disappointing read of the year, I don't know, who am I to say. It's about this like pop star in the 90s and early 2000s, and I love books about music. It's like one of my favorite things ever. This was not one of my favorite things ever. Not at all. So I'm gonna say Carve the Mark. I'm not super passionate about Carve the Mark. It was good. You know, it's fine. It was like sci-fi. I like sci-fi. Futuristic, you know, so I'll give it to Miss Veronica. Oh, okay. Jawbone by Monica Ojeda versus Beating Heart Baby by Lo Min. It's gonna be Beating Heart Baby. I really like this. It was cute. It was like queer people in high school being together and overcoming a lot of hardships, and it was just really sweet and really good, and I liked it. Jawbone by Monica Ojeda. I did not get this book. This is a really weird, kind of gross book, and I didn't understand it. I did not understand it. I didn't get it. Sometimes I think I'm like, oh, maybe it was because I listened to the audiobook, maybe I wasn't fully dialed in. But some of my favorite books I read this year and have ever read, like, I've listened to the audiobook for, so I didn't get it. I don't know. Woo Woo by Ella Baxter and Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews. Okay, these were my last 2 reads of the year, actually, so they're kind of the most recent. I think it's gonna be Woo Woo. If you can hear the wind battering the trees against the window, I don't know what's happening out there. Things are getting crazy. I had some like vague issues with it, but overall I really liked it. Don't Let the Forest In, sort of less passionate about. Like, it was, again, like, it was good. So many books I read this year, like, yeah, it was good. Like, those are my like 3 and 4 stars kind of. Like, yeah, it was a solid read. But I think Woo Woo, I don't know, I just liked it more. Oh my gosh. Okay, Fever House by Keith Rawson and Iron Widow by Ciaran J. Zhao. These are my first 2 books of the year. It's gonna be Fever House. I loved Fever House. Something about me. I've been trying to find a zombie book that I like for like years. It's not happened until now. Because at first I was trying to find like a teen girl friend group zombie book. And I read like 3 of those and they were all bad, or not. Dramatic. They all weren't what I was looking for, and I still want that, but Fever House, you know, was something to tide me over until I can find the next good zombie book. Iron Widow I really liked, but I think it's gotta go to Fever House. Oh, Love is a Mixtape, Life and Loss One Song at a Time by Rob Sheffield versus Nothing Special by Nicole Flattery. My Goodreads review of Nothing Special says lives up to its name, because it was not anything special, unfortunately. It had a cool plot. It was about this girl who was working for, she was a typist for Andy Warhol, like fictionalized, but like it did not really do anything with that. It didn't really have anything to say, and also nothing happened. So, Love is a Mixtape, oh my gosh. This book, like, it really affected me. When I read this was like my I think these might have been like my third and fourth books of the year, actually. But when I read this, I think my Goodreads review says I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being my favorite book of the year. And I guess we shall see. It was just really good. It's like, it's about his life, and he, for each like section of his life, he puts together like this mixtape of songs, and he's talking about his life. Like, he talks about the bands he was in, and it actually takes place, he went to college where I live. And I didn't know that. Like, that was a big surprise to me. He was like talking about all these places, and I was like, huh, what are the odds? All these places have the same name. This is the place that I live. It is the place, he lives in the place that I live. That was also a big part of it. But he goes through the loss of his wife, which is really sad. And it was beautiful. It was so good. It was so good. And again, like, it's not gonna be for everyone. Like, it's a pretty simple, like, straightforward, I don't know if you would classify it as a memoir. It's nothing like crazy or like super compelling, probably for the average person, but for me it was just like, oh my gosh. Woo, okay. I survived capitalism, and all I got was this lousy t-shirt, Everything I Wish I Never Had to Learn About Money by Madeline Pendleton. This was pre-Scandal. Every scandal she's had, it was before that. Versus An Ember in the Ashes, the whole series by Sabaa Tahir. It's gotta go to Ember in the Ashes. Like, am I stupid? The Madeline Pendleton book, the most interesting parts about it were the parts about her life. And then all the financial advice, it was stuff that I already knew. So like, if it was full memoir, it's like so weird to say her life was really interesting, but like, it was just like cool stuff, like weird stuff happened to her, and it's interesting to read about. So the financial advice was fine. An Ember in the Ashes is An Ember in the Ashes, and like, that's just like, it's just good. Like, that's it. Like, you can't really say anything else about that. Like, no one's gonna argue when you say An Ember in the Ashes is good. Yellowface by R.F. Kuang versus Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily R. Austin. Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily R. Austin. Yellowface was great. Like, of course, everyone loved it. Same, like, everyone also loved the Emily Austin book, but it's gotta go to Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead. Beautyland by Marie Helene Bertino versus I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. It's gonna go to I'm Glad My Mom Died. Beautyland was fine. It's like one of the stories about like the meaning of life, the meaning of love, how to be a good person, like one of those, you know. And the main character is sort of convinced that she's an alien, and you as the reader, like, we don't know if she is or not. The point of view is like an alien learning about humanity and you know, all that stuff. But this was written in third person, and so every lesson she was learning and everything, like, she was feeling, it just felt like not emotional at all. And like, the writing also itself wasn't very emotional. I'm not saying like crazy sad stuff has to happen to her, but like, there wasn't a lot of feeling in the writing itself. So all of like the messaging didn't really hit because of that. I'm Glad My Mom Died. Like, what? Like, duh. Like, you know that book, obviously. Oh my gosh, okay. Gunk Baby by Jamie Marina Lau versus My Monticello by Jocelyn Nicole Johnson. My Monticello is a short story collection, and the title story is actually a novella, and I read the novella in high school, but I didn't read the rest of the collection. I actually met her. She like came and talked at my high school, and I got to ask her a question and she answered it. No big deal. So I was, you know, I wanted to read the rest of the collection for the first time, and I felt like My Monticello, the novella, would have been better on its own, and then more short stories used to fill out the rest of the collection. I just think My Monticello is like, it's very good, and it's very solid, and it really does stand on its own. That's how I read it the first time. And the rest of the stories were good and interesting, and I enjoyed them, but they did sort of pale in comparison to My Monticello. So I think having, you know, some separation could have been good. That's just me, I don't know. And then Gunk Baby could have been so good. It's about this woman who starts an ear cleaning business, and she starts losing her mind, kind of. Like, her life is like weird and bad. Like, her roommates don't like her. Like, she's like running out of money. Her family life is weird, and it was sort of pitched as this like workplace comedic thriller thing because her ear cleaning business is inside a mall. Did not really live up to its potential. It could have done a lot, and it didn't really do anything, unfortunately. So it's gonna go to My Monticello. Chlorine by Jade Song and Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. I think Chlorine, there was something missing for me. Could not tell you what it is. Just something more that I needed. So I think it's gonna go to Nothing to See Here. Okay, Now Is Not the Time to Panic by Kevin Wilson and Una Out of Order by Margarita Montemor. That's actually really harsh. Why would they do that so early? I think it has to go to Now Is Not the Time to Panic, but that's really hard. I loved Una Out of Order. But I guess, yeah, there was one aspect of Una Out of Order that wasn't my favorite, but okay, yeah, Now Is Not the Time to Panic. The Extraordinary Series versus Una Out of Order. It's Una Out of Order. Girls at the Edge of the World by Laura Brooke Robson versus The Late Americans by Brandon Taylor. Girls at the Edge of the World, it did something so stupid at the end. It's like this fantasy book standalone, I think. All my anger for it stems from the fact that at the time that I read it, it was a standalone and it wasn't intended to be a series. But at the very end, the two like main girls, they uncover this like the advisor to the king was evil all along and he's like trying to start a coup. And then they get on a boat and they sail away and they leave the city. It's like, why would you introduce a corrupt government plot and then not have the characters overthrow the government in the next book? Like, to me, that's not how like fantasy books progress. In my brain, that's not how that works. I'm like, you can't do that. So it was really weird to me. I don't think I would have read the second one. Like, if there's a second one, I won't read it because it was just fine. But that like really, I was like, what? And then The Late Americans, it was about a bunch of grad students doing nothing. They didn't do, nothing happened. They didn't do anything. This was another one that I sort of blamed on the audiobook, or not on the audiobook, but the fact that I listened to the audiobook and like, oh, maybe I just wasn't fully in it, but there was nothing to get into. Nothing fucking happened. So I guess I'm gonna give it to Girls at the Edge of the World.
I'm editing this video, and if you can see, just like super quick, that it flashes up on the screen just for a second. I accidentally clicked a book without reading it, without talking about it. And then I go on to talk about that book like a lot and I never explain what it's about. So The Fetishist by Catherine Min. This is about a young woman whose mother committed suicide because her boyfriend either left her or cheated on her for or with this other woman, this other East Asian woman. And the man is white. And both women that he's with are East Asian. I don't remember what nationality specifically, but this is like a common thing. Like this man is the fetishist. And the daughter, she sets out to kill him because he is effectively the reason that her mother committed suicide. And so you're following the daughter, you're following the other woman, and then you're following the man. And the man and the other woman, they're both musicians, I think, like in an orchestra, and she has this sort of degenerative disease that has made it so she can't really play anymore. And you're following her, you're following the daughter on her mission to kill the guy, and you're following the guy. And I sort of thought that the main character would be this girl, the daughter. She gets maybe like a quarter of the page time is from her perspective. And then maybe another quarter is the other woman. The rest, the other half, is all from the man's perspective. And I thought it had some like really good and interesting and worthwhile things to say about fetishization of Asian women specifically. But half of the book was from that fetishist man's perspective. And it felt not, it like sort of undercut what it was trying to say. I was like, why are you giving him so much page time? I didn't enjoy that, but I thought every time I talk about this book further on in the video, I'm saying like, oh, the concept was just so good, I can't let it go. Like, even if it wasn't great in its execution, it could have been so great, and I'm really attached to what could have been. So, and that's true. Like, I was so excited to read this. I thought it was going to be like, maybe I just hyped it up too much in my head, but like, I thought it was going to be great. And then I think probably the worst part is that this was published posthumously by Catherine Min's daughter. And in the afterword, she talks about it. She talks about how her mother described this manuscript as being abandoned, that it was never going to be published. She said she was done writing fiction at that point in her life when she abandoned this manuscript. and then she passed away, and the daughter like found it and was like, I need to publish this. And I was like, she didn't want any more of her fiction work to be published. She literally abandoned this manuscript. She was done with it. And I thought that was really, really weird that it was published like this. And I did not enjoy that. And so I'm like really upset about this book, obviously. So that's The Fetishist. I did pick The Fetishist over The Goth House Experiment. Yeah, sorry.
Oh gosh, okay. Robin and Her Misfits by Kelly Ann Jacobson and Tilly in Technicolor by Maisie Eddings. Robin and Her Misfits was so short. It was like, what was the point of this book? It was like, okay, so this group of women, they run like a school or a summer camp together, but they're also like criminals. And so the book was about like their origin story, but it was like, we don't care about them. And it was kind of like a Robin Hood type retelling, but like it wasn't. Tilly in Technicolor, it was a romance, it was a YA romance, it was fine. The reason I don't really read a lot of romance was I'm picky. I'm extremely picky. And this, it was fine. Like, it wasn't bad. A lot of romance I read and I think, this is terrible. This is atrociously bad. And it's like popular romance books. So this was like fine. It truly was fine. I'm gonna give it to Tilly in Technicolor. You know, it was fine. It was cute. Daughter Smoke and Bone, the series, versus Queens of Geek by Jen Wilde. Oof. Queens of Geek, if I read it when I was in middle school, I would have never shut up about it. It was fine. They're friends. They go to, again, like a Comic-Con type thing, and they, you know, learn about themselves and their relationships and whatever. It's Daughter Smoke and Bone. Like, there's no world that it's not. Okay, Wake the Bones by Elizabeth Kilcoyne versus Queens of Geek. Wake the Bones. Ooh, okay. Pigs by Joanna Stoberock versus the Renegade series by Marissa Meyer. Okay, the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer was that was like my first favorite book series. Loved it, obsessed with it. Oh my gosh. Until Renegades, that was the only thing I'd read from her until last year. And I read those when I was like 10, 11. Renegades was extremely disappointing for me. In my head, I like superhero stories. That's why I thought I would like the Extraordinary series. That's why I finished the whole thing. That's why I read this, because I thought I like superhero books. Do I? Or are you guys just writing bad superhero books? Oh my god, the main character, what even is her name? The main character, she's like mad at okay, what happens in this book? So there are a bunch of like gangs, like villain gangs that sort of are destroying her city, and then the superheroes, like, they form this group and they come and like take care of like the criminal villains. They kill them, like, and arrest them, and then they sort of form this government to, you know, help rebuild the infrastructure and you know, fund schools and they're like aid programs. But she's mad that they are giving aid to this absolutely demolished city. Let's just read my review. Okay, this was disappointing. It did not have any of the humor present in the Lunar Chronicles. The world building sucked. The pacing was insane because there was no climax. Oh my god, that made me so mad. We weren't building to anything. The big fight at the end had only been planned 20 pages before. That made me so mad. I was like, okay, like, when's something gonna happen? And then they're like, we're planning this big thing. I'm like, you have 40 pages. Like, how big can it be? There's basically no character work for such a large ensemble cast. The side characters were woefully flat and underutilized. I was mad. Nova's motivations were not very compelling, and to quote my friend on here, being in Nova's head was like being in a Young Republicans meeting. If she was just avenging her family, great, fantastic, avenge them. But she's also trying to destroy the only welfare programs her city has. She hates the superheroes in the government because they're like providing these welfare programs. And her reason is because the people are becoming lazy. I was like, oh my god, Marissa, this isn't you. This isn't you. And the entire time she's talking about how the city was destroyed, but she doesn't want the people partially responsible to help rebuild. You don't want people to donate money for medical supplies because more people should go to medical school. The city has been in turmoil for 30 years and you think there's enough infrastructure in place for people to go to med school? Like, that's what the superheroes are in charge of trying to fix. Like, they're trying to help your people. Oh my god, it was insane. So that was kind of how I felt about that book. Versus Pigs by Joanna Stoberock. Okay, very interesting book. I said, oh, this is weirdly a mix between Beauty Queens by Libba Bray and The Witches by Roald Dahl. All of these kids live on an island There's either 4 or 5 of them. All the garbage and the trash from the rest of the world gets sent to this island, and their job is to sort it and then feed it to these giant pigs, hence why it's called pigs. There are adults there, but they live like up on the hill, and they hate the children. They abuse the kids, they chase them. At one point they hunt them for sport. Like, they're not any help for these kids. Like, they're up there, they're feasting, they're the upper class. Then one day this boy washes ashore in a crate, and they don't know what to do, and so they kind of bring him into their group, but then he starts causing issues for them. And then there's this other man that is washing ashore, like, separately at a different part of the island. It was interesting. It was an interesting premise. The writing was not evoking a lot from me emotionally, I think. It was like good writing, but it wasn't like, I wasn't super invested in the story. Did I like it more than Renegades? That's why we're here. I think yes. I clicked yes. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf by Edward Albee versus Immediate Family by Ashley Nelson Levy. So, fun fact, I was reading Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf physically, and I was listening to Immediate Family audibly. And Immediate Family spoiled the ending of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf for me. So, that was upsetting. That was annoying. It's gonna go to Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. I loved it. Wish it hadn't been spoiled for me. It was the type of thing that's what I was kind of thinking. I was kind of seeing it coming. It was one of my theories, but then having it, you know, confirmed, I was like, oh, dang, why? Why? Immediate Family, it really made me care for the characters, but the plot and the concept, it wasn't super compelling. Obviously it was compelling enough for me to like pick it up and read it, but it wasn't anything like super hard-hitting or creative plot-wise. But the writing, it really made me really like feel connected to these characters, so that was good. But it's gonna go to Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Ooh, Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Huang versus All Rise Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. I think it's going to All Rise Under the Sea. Again, you guys know these books. Natural Beauty, again, I was missing something. I felt sort of disconnected from the main character, and the way she was also sort of apathetic to the weird, crazy things that were happening to her. I was like very much like, why are you not like, hello, are you okay? But I liked it. It was good. But I do think I liked All Rise Under the Sea more. Neither of them, I listened to these both on audio. Neither of them did I like enough to purchase a copy for my bookshelves. The Sunshine Court by Nora Sakovic versus Someday Somewhere by Lindsay Champion. I got Someday Somewhere at the library book sale. It was like a romance, and it was like, they're like teenagers, and the guy is like a prodigy violinist, I think, and then the girl is a dancer. And so they meet and they fall in love like in New York City. But it was bad. It was really bad. It was so surface level. It wasn't even surface level. She was like hovering over the surface. So that was frustrating. It's The Sunshine Court. The Husbands versus Someday Somewhere. The Husbands. Beholder by Ryan LaSala versus Lakewood by Megan Giddings. It's gonna go to Beholder. Love Ryan LaSala. That author is someone I think is really creative and original with the plots and like concepts. Love Beholder. Lakewood, again, like it wasn't super compelling for me. It was fine, but it's Beholder. True Biz by Sarah Novick and Lake Lore by Anna Marie McLemore. This is my first Anna Marie McLemore, I think. And it was very juvenile. Like, I know they write YA, but it felt like very young YA, just in the writing style. And I was like, is this the way they write? Are all their books this young sounding? Like, I don't know. I like my YA. I still like YA. I do, but I like it to not be written in a juvenile way, you know? That's why I never really, once I aged out of middle grade, I never really was able to go back, because the like super simplistic juvenile writing style, I just can't really get past that. So it's going to True Biz. Oh, A Cigarette Lit Backwards by T. Hatchik Blahovich? Tia Tatkic. Okay. And then Confidence by Raphael Frumpkin. It's gonna go to Confidence. A Cigarette Lit Backwards, I was really disappointed because it takes place, it's this high school girl who's a part of the punk scene in North Carolina in the 90s, maybe? Didn't feel like that at all. There was no sense of place. And this was like one of the parts of the synopsis that really jumped out at me. I was like, oh my god, the punk scene in North Carolina in the 90s? Maybe it was the early 2000s, I don't know. And she's like a daughter of like immigrant parents. Like, this is like really interesting. This is gonna have like a lot to say. It's gonna be, I don't think I've ever read anything like this. You could not tell it took place in North Carolina. You could barely tell it took place in the 90s. The only way her immigrant parents had any bearing on the story, like her first generation parents, it was, they'd be like, don't stay out late, and then she'd sneak out. It could have been so good. It could have been like really, really good. It just sounds so interesting, and it was not. So Confidence had been on my TBR for a while, and it's about like gay people. They con people into buying this invention, and then they start a cult kind of, and then like they're in jail. And the pacing was a little weird. It was a little hard to follow where in time we were, but I really liked it. Witches of Ash and Ruin by E. Latimer and This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. It's going to This Savage Song. Witches of Ash and Ruin really upset me because at the end they were like, it's standalone, and at the end they were like, the main character kept saying, there was so much we still had to figure out, so much we still didn't know, but for now everything was fine. I was like, when that's a series, you can do that. Like, when like there's time to uncover the rest, you can do that. Or you don't say anything about there still being stuff to figure out. Either leave it open-ended, and that's fine, but don't draw attention to the fact that you're leaving it open-ended. I genuinely would have forgotten that we didn't know X, Y, and Z, and now you brought it up and now I want to know. It was just really, it was frustrating. This Savage Song, I liked it. I've wanted to read it like forever, and I finally did. This is the first, I think, duology that the first and the second book are separate, because I have thoughts on the two. But the first book, it was good. Again, it was creative. I liked it. We're only 12% done, by the way. So, The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa and Our Dark Duet by Victoria Schwab. Okay, The Memory Police, conceptually, love. In actuality, in execution, not my favorite. I think there wasn't enough of a driving force through the plot. It was basically just things happening to our main character, and there wasn't a lot of, it wasn't very propulsive. And so I was kind of like waiting for something big to happen. Our Dark Duet, severe downgrade from This Savage Song. I was quite upset at the ending, which is really what has really cemented it. I do think, since it's still the same, like, love the concept, like the characters, I think I liked it more than The Memory Police. Lo-Fi by Liz Riggs versus The Wolves of Mercy Falls series by Maggie Stiefvater. The Raven Cycle is my favorite series of all time, because I'm a person. Wolves of Mercy Falls, I had a shiver physically forever, like ever. Just never read it. The audiobook was available at my library. I read it, I did, and I read the whole series and I liked it. I really liked it. I don't know. It's the type of thing, you know, once you get past like the soulmate, we're wolves and we're soulmates and we're really like dramatic and like, oh my god, like once you get past that, it's like good. Like, for me, Maggie Stiefvater, one of the things she's best at is making you care about the characters, making you invested in them. Even if the plot is like, you're invested because you're invested in the characters. And that is like, by the end, that's how I felt. Loved it. Well, really liked it. There we go. But Lo-Fi, Lo-Fi by Liz Riggs. Oh my gosh. So this takes place in Nashville in, I think, 2010. And the main character, she works at like a club, and so she like all these bands go through, and she's like a songwriter, but she hasn't been able to like actually write in a long time, and she's like overcoming her personal stuff, and then she has like external stuff, and it's like set against the music scene of Nashville in 2010. 5 stars. 5 stars. An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green versus The Lilies by Quinn Diacon Furtado. I loved An Absolutely Remarkable Thing, frankly, more than I thought I was going to. The Lilies was good. It's fine. Wasn't really my thing. I mean, it was my thing, but I didn't like love it. So I don't know. An Absolutely Remarkable Thing is definitely gonna beat that out. Okay, Carve the Mark series versus A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor. Okay, A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor is the sequel. Liked it less. Liked it more than Carve the Mark though. So. The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich versus What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher. I think it's The Measure. Like, What Feasts at Night was fine. I only read it because it was the sequel to What Moves the Dead. What Moves the Dead was better. And The Measure was also better. I don't need to tell you about The Measure. You know about The Measure. The Weight of the Stars by Kay Ancrum versus The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater. This is tough. This is really tough because The Weight of the Stars, I didn't get it. There was a certain progression that I really didn't understand. I didn't understand the character motivations. I didn't understand the choices they made. The Scorpio Races, I also was not super like attached. I was not invested. Funnily enough, this audiobook was actually narrated by the same duo that narrates the entire Ember in the Ashes series. And everything, like they always narrate together. I noticed that. I was like, I know these voices. I was like, the girl started narrating, I was like, I know this voice. And then the guy started narrating, I was like, this is something, what is this? And it was, they always narrate together. I don't know why, I think it's fun. What are their names? Couldn't tell you. I think the Scorpio Race is gonna win. I don't know. The Devil by Name by Keith Rawson versus This Delicious Death by Kayla Cottingham. This Delicious Death, it was like a stupid, like, urban fantasy mystery. YA, it was dumb. It was fine. It was dumb. Hello. My camera battery died and then I had to go to work. So it is like 7 hours later. I'm here. I'm back. Where were we? The Devil by Name by Keith Rawson versus This Delicious Death by Kayla Cottingham. It's going to The Devil by Name, even though I was disappointed.
I realized I did not do a good job of explaining why I was so disappointed in The Devil by Name, and I also never really explained what Fever House is about, because it's about zombies, but, like, kind of. There's this severed hand that, when you're in possession of it, it is, like, whispering, it's in your head, it's telling you to do all these violent things, it, like, makes you angry, and when you kill someone while under the influence of this hand, that person becomes fevered, a zombie, and then it spreads. And so you're following the hand, going to different people, following their experience with being almost possessed by it, kind of, and then you're also following this government agency that's sort of keeping an eye on the situation, and that is in charge of these sort of evil artifacts, because there's multiple. And then by the end, it's like, okay, the city is in lockdown, this is bad, like, it's the start of the zombie apocalypse, basically, at the very end of Fever House. The beginning of The Devil by Name, it's like 5 years later. And I hated that. I hated that time jump. That's not what I wanted to see. I wanted to see the immediate aftermath. I wanted to see what is going on. I didn't want to be thrown into this whole new society 5 years later and then have to learn, like, based on context clues, how everything played out. I wanted to be there to see it play out, and it was just sort of also more boring than the first book, unfortunately. So that was my experience with The Devil by Name. Beating Heart Baby by Lo Min and Light from Uncommon Stars by Rika Aoki. Beating Heart Baby. Light from Uncommon Stars, again, it's something that the concept and the premise sounded so interesting, and it was just missing something in the actual book. So, Beating Heart Baby. Jawbone versus Light from Uncommon Stars. Light from Uncommon Stars. Headshot by Rita Bullwinkle versus Housemates by Emma Copley Eisenberg. It's gonna go to Housemates. Housemates, I really struggled with. It's one of those books that doesn't have quotation marks for the dialogue, which just makes me endlessly angry. Did not like it. It's like kind of unreadable for me when books do that. Just like literally, and not just like I'm annoyed by it, but like I literally can't read it. It takes me like a long time to decipher what is going on, and I don't like that. So I switched to the audiobook, and it was a much more enjoyable experience. It wasn't my favorite like lit fic of this genre, but I did like it more than Headshot. Headshot is about this like girls boxing, like teenage girls boxing championship. For each match you get like both of the girls' perspectives, and then like that's it. You switch to the next match, you get the next girl. And I thought it was gonna be sort of less, like not quite snapshots like that, but I thought it was gonna be like a more linear narrative about these girls like training and fighting and, you know, like a more long-winded story, which it wasn't, which is fine. Wasn't what I wanted. I also love sports books, but it's gonna go to Housemates. Oh my god, this is crazy.
It's actually not. A Door in the Dark by Scott Rankin versus Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World. Sequel to Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. It took me a long time to read this sequel because I was scared. And I was right to be. I was right to be scared. There's something that happens in this book, no spoilers, that happens like halfway through. That happened to me. And I was reading this at a time that was like right around a certain anniversary of something for me that happens in this book. It was so, oh my god, it was a lot. It was like, it was so good. Oh my god, it was like, but personally, it was a lot for me. This book, it also seemed much more poetic than the first one. I reread the first one because I knew I finally wanted to read the second, and it felt like very in like the specific lines, like it's just Ari like writing in his journal, and he's being so like profound and like saying all these really like poetic things, and I like had I was thinking like, is this author a poet? Like, I don't know, was it good poetry? Who am I to say? But it read much like deeper than the first book. Some of it did get annoying sometimes. It did. But I think it's gonna win. A Door in the Dark, it was real. I think I gave A Door in the Dark 5 stars. This was a completely unexpected, I was just really in the mood for fantasy. And so I picked this up. It was just on Libby. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. But it's gonna go to Ari and Dante. Most Ardently by Gabe Cole Novoa, and Queen of the Turtle Derby and Other Southern Phenomena by Julia Reed. Queen of the Turtle Derby was bad. It sucked. It wasn't very good. It was a nonfiction about Southern phenomena. The author was from the South, lived in the North for a while, and then moved back. It was just not great. It wasn't written very well. It didn't really have anything to say. It was literally just like telling you about things. I don't know. Most Ardently is a queer retelling of Pride and Prejudice, and it was good. It was sweet. I think it made me appreciate Pride and Prejudice more. It wasn't modern, but it had like these queer characters. The main character is trans, like, and that's not a modern thing, but like having it approached in this way, it made me like get it more. So it's gonna go to Most Ardently. Woo Woo by Ella Baxter versus Green Frog by Gina Chung. Green Frog, it disappointed me a little bit. I thought the stories were gonna be more sort of fantastical than they were, and I didn't really feel like pulled to any of them. So it's gonna go to Woo Woo. Don't Let the Forest In versus Green Frog. I think Don't Let the Forest In is gonna win. Love is a Mixtape, Life and Loss One Song at a Time versus Fever House. I think it has to go to Love is a Mixtape. That's hard. That's really hard. I think it has to go to Love is a Mixtape. Nothing Special versus Fever House. Fever House, duh. Nothing Special versus Iron Widow. Iron Widow. Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead versus the Ember in the Ashes series. Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead. Yellowface versus Ember in the Ashes. Whoa! I think Yellowface. Is that crazy? I think Yellowface. My Monticello versus I'm Glad My Mom Died. I'm glad my mom died. My Monticello versus Beautyland. My Monticello. Gunk Baby versus Beautyland. Oh gosh. I think I have to say Beautyland. Gunk Baby, the concept, I'm really attached to the concept and how good it could have been and then wasn't. But I think Beautyland does have to win. Now's not the time to panic versus Nothing to See Here. Now's not the time to panic. Una Out of Order versus Nothing to See Here. I think Una Out of Order. Extraordinaries, the Extraordinary series versus Nothing to See Here. Nothing to See Here. Extraordinaries versus Chlorine. The Fetishist versus Girls at the Edge of the World. This is another one where I'm so attached to the concept that like, I think a great concept and a great potential that with mediocre execution versus mediocre concept, mediocre execution. I don't know. I think that, so I think I have to choose The Fetishist. Calling these books like mediocre is so rude. I'm so sorry. I don't actually mean like mediocre like bad. I just mean like mediocre in my enjoyment of them. So I'm gonna go with The Fetishist. Oh, The Goth House Experiment by S.J. Hindu versus Girls at the Edge of the World. Short story collection that I listened to the audiobook of, which made me realize I don't like listening to short story collections via audio. I did not really love it. So I guess Girls at the Edge of the World. Goth House Experiment versus The Late Americans. The Late Americans? Daughter of Smoke and Bone versus Tilly in Technicolor. Daughter of Smoke and Bone. Wake the Bones versus Tilly in Technicolor. Wake the Bones. Queens of Geek versus Tilly in Technicolor. Queens of Geek. Queens of Geek. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf versus Pigs. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Immediate Family versus Pigs. Okay. If I barely remember something about a book, and that's put up against a book that I wanted to love and I was set up to love and then didn't, which should win? Because I'm leaning towards Pigs, but I don't know. I'm gonna go Pigs. Sorry. Immediate Family versus Renegades. The thing about the Renegade series is that it was fun. It was annoying, but it was fun. Maybe Renegades. Oh my god, The Sunshine Court versus Our Wives Under the Sea. The Sunshine Court. The Husbands versus Our Wives Under the Sea. The Husbands. Someday Somewhere versus Our Wives Under the Sea. Our Wives Under the Sea. Someday Somewhere versus Natural Beauty. Natural Beauty. True Biz versus Beholder. That's actually really hard. That's actually really, really hard because they're very, very different. True Biz is about a school for deaf children, and you're following a girl who she had a cochlear implant when she was young, and so she never learned sign language, and she's feeling very like separate from her peers because of that, because they all know sign language. And then the headmaster of the school, the principal, she is a child of deaf parents, but she herself is hearing. And the girl, she's like trying to find her place, trying to reckon with, you know, the choices that her parents made for her when she was a kid, and then like something happens. Obviously things happen. But Beholder is just so, oh, they're so different. This is like actually really hard. I think it's gotta go to Beholder. True Biz versus Lakewood. True Biz. Lakewood versus Lake Lore. Maybe Lake Lore. Maybe Lake Lore. This Savage Song versus Confidence. I think I like Confidence more. This Savage Song versus A Cigarette Lit Backwards. The Savage Song. Witches of Ash and Ruin versus A Cigarette Lit Backwards. Witches of Ash and Ruin. Lo-Fi by Liz Riggs versus Our Dark Duet. Lo-Fi. Wolves of Mercy Falls versus Our Dark Duet. Wolves of Mercy Falls. Whoa, A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor versus An Absolutely Remarkable Thing. An Absolutely Remarkable Thing. A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor versus The Lilies. A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor. Carve the Mark versus The Lilies. Carve the Mark. Honey versus The Lilies. The Lilies. The Scorpio Races versus The Measure. The Measure. The Scorpio Races versus What Feasts at Night. The Scorpio Races. The Weight of the Stars versus What Feasts at Night. The Weight of the Stars. Beating Heart Baby versus The Devil by Name. Beating Heart Baby. Light from Uncommon Stars versus The Devil by Name. Light from Uncommon Stars? Maybe. Jawbone versus The Devil by Name. The Devil by Name. I feel like this is gonna come out as Jawbone being like my least favorite book of the year. I don't want that to be true because I don't know if I think that's true. Jawbone versus This Delicious Death. This Delicious Death? Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World versus Housemates. Ari and Dante. A Door in the Dark versus Housemates? Again, so different. I gave A Door in the Dark 5 stars and I did not give Housemates 5 stars, so guess that's my answer. Woo Woo over Most Ardently. Don't Let the Forest In over Most Ardently. Most Ardently over Green Frog. Green Frog over Queen of the Turtle Derby. Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead versus Love Is a Mixtape. This is where things actually get like really, whoa. I don't want to do this anymore. I think I have to reread both. It's my cop-out. I could say I like both. That's an option. I haven't used that yet. I've been really good. I think it's actually gonna get worse than this, so I think I need to choose one now. I think I'm gonna choose Love Is a Mixtape. Ah! Oh my god. Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead versus Fever House. I think it's Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead. Fever House versus Yellowface. Fever House. Yellowface versus Iron Widow. Yellowface. And Ember in the Ashes versus Iron Widow. That's hard. Am I about to say Iron Widow? Whoa, that'd be crazy of me. What if I do? Okay, I did it. And Ember in the Ashes versus Nothing Special. Ember in the Ashes. I Survive Capitalism versus Nothing Special. I Survive Capitalism. Now's Not the Time to Panic versus I'm Glad My Mom Died. Now's Not the Time to Panic. Una Out of Order over I'm Glad My Mom Died. Nothing to See Here over I'm Glad My Mom. Okay, by the way, like ranking someone's memoir like this, a lot of people like don't rate nonfiction or don't rate memoirs specifically because it's someone's life story. But I think that like someone can write a bad memoir. It can be poorly written, it can be poorly organized. So I rate memoirs, I rate nonfiction that I read. I'm Glad My Mom Died was written like just so well. So when I'm like choosing other things over it, I'm not like, I like this plot better than her life story. It's like, it's a whole bunch of things. I don't know. So that's the reason why I rate memoirs. I think I'm gonna choose Nothing to See Here. Okay, I'm Glad My Mom Died over Chlorine. My Monticello versus Chlorine. Chlorine. The Extraordinaries versus My Monticello, My Monticello. Beautyland over The Extraordinaries. Gunk Baby over The Extraordinaries. Daughter of Smoke and Bone over The Fetishist. Wake the Bone. I hate to say this stuff because like these are books that were like fine, but The Fetishist just, I'm just so attached to what could have been. Okay, Wake the Bones. Queens of Geek versus The Fetishist. Queens of Geek, fine. Okay, no. I draw the line. I'm putting the fetishist over Tilly and Technicolor. Tilly and Technicolor over Girls at the Edge of the World. Girls at the Edge of the World over Robin and Her Misfits. The Late American... the Late Americans over Robin and Her Misfits. Robin and Her Misfits over The Goth House Experiment. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf versus The Sunshine Court? Jesus Christ. Oh my god. If I put... You can't... If I put The Sunshine Court over Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, I won't be able to take myself seriously. So it's Who is Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Sunshine Court versus Pigs. Sunshine Court. The Husbands over Pigs. Our Wives Under the Sea over Pigs. Natural Beauty over Pigs. Pigs over Someday Somewhere. Renegades over Someday Somewhere. Immediate Family over Someday Somewhere. Beholder over Confidence. True Biz over Confidence. Confidence over Lake Lore. This Savage Song over Lake Lore. Witches of Ash and Ruin over Lake Lore. Lake Lore over A Cigarette Like Backwards. Lake Wood over A Cigarette Like Backwards. Oh my god, An Absolutely Remarkable Thing and Lo-Fi? You want me dead. You want me to die. Great. An Absolutely Remarkable Thing? I guess. Okay, but Lo-Fi over A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor. Yeah. A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor over the Wolves of Mercy Falls series. Wolves of Mercy Falls. Am I crazy if I put the Wolves of Mercy Falls series over Carve the Mark? Is that crazy? I'm gonna do it. Carve the Mark over Our Dark Duet. The Lilies over Our Dark Duet. Our Dark Duet over Honey. The Memory Police over Honey. Whoa, Beating Heart Baby versus The Measure. That's really, that's kind of a lot to put me through. I don't know if I like that. Beating Heart Baby. No, The Measure. Who am I kidding? It's The Measure. Beating Heart Baby over the Scorpio Races. Light from Uncommon Stars versus the Scorpio Races. Scorpio Races. Whoa. Light from Uncommon Stars versus The Weight of the Stars. I genuinely could not tell you. I'm gonna say The Weight of the Stars. Okay, Light from Uncommon Stars over What Feasts at Night. The Devil by Name versus What Feasts at Night. The Devil by Name, I guess. This Delicious Death. Okay, What Feasts at Night over This Delicious Death. Oh, God, okay. Ari and Dante over Woo Woo. A Door in the Dark over Woo Woo. Woo Woo over Housemaid. No. Housemaid's over Woo Woo. Woo Woo over Headshot. Don't Let the Forest In over Headshot. Most Ardently over Headshot. We're officially 50% sorted. This is battle 153. And we're halfway there. Green Frog versus Headshot. I don't know. We're getting to the point where all these books I gave 3 stars. I'm I don't know. Green Frog. Green Frog, sure. Headshot over Queen of the Turtle Derby. Now Is Not the Time to Panic versus Love Is a Mixtape. This was the one I was afraid of. I think it might be Now Is Not the Time to Panic, which I think means Now Is Not the Time to Panic is shaping up to be my favorite of the year. Love Is a Mixtape versus Una Out of Order. I think Love Is a Mixtape. Una Out of Order versus Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead. God, Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead. Una Out of Order versus Fever House. Again, so different. It's zombies versus time travel. I don't know. What do you want me to say? I think I'm gonna go Fever House. First instinct, not gonna overthink it. Una Out of Order over Yellowface. Nothing to see here over Yellowface. Yellowface over I'm Glad My Mom Died. I'm Glad My Mom Died over Iron Widow. Iron Widow over Chlorine. An Ember in the Ashes over Chlorine. Chlorine over I Survived Capitalism. My Monticello over I Survived Capitalism. I Survived Capitalism over Beautyland. Beautyland over Nothing Special. Gunk Baby over Nothing Special. Extraordinary Series over Nothing Special. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf versus Daughter of Smoke and Bone. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Sunshine Court over Daughter of Smoke and Bone. The Husbands over Daughter of Smoke and Bone. Daughter of Smoke and Bone over Our Wives Under the Sea. Call me crazy. I don't know. Our Wives Under the Sea over Wake the Bones. Natural Beauty over Wake the Bones. Wake the Bones over Pigs, unfortunately. Pigs over Queens of Geek. Renegades over Queens of Geek? I guess. Immediate Family over Queens of Geek. Queens of Geek over Someday Somewhere. The Fetishist over Someday Somewhere. Tilly and Technicolor over Someday Somewhere. Girls at the Edge of the World. The Late Americans. Robin and Her Misfits. Goth House Experiment. An Absolutely Remarkable Thing versus Beholder. An Absolutely Remarkable Thing. Lo-Fi versus Beholder. Lo-Fi. Beautifully Foolish Endeavor versus Beholder. Beautifully Foolish Endeavor. Wolves of Mercy Falls versus Beholder. I'm gonna say Wolves of Mercy Falls. Beholder over Carve the Mark. True Biz. Confidence. This Savage Song. Carve the Mark over Witches of Ash and Ruin. The Lilies over Witches of Ash and Ruin. Our Dark Duet over Witches of Ash and Ruin. The Memory Police, no. Ugh. Witches of Ash and Ruin over the Memory Police. The Memory Police over Lake Lore. Lake Lore over Honey? Yeah. Lake Wood over Honey? Honey over A Cigarette Lit Backwards. Ariandante versus The Measure. Ariandante. Adore in the Dark versus The Measure. Again, I think I gave The Measure 4 stars and I gave Adore in the Dark 5. Do ratings matter anyway? Are they fake? Who knows? I made it this far without pressing I like both. So, The Measure. Adore in the Dark over Beating Heart Baby. Beating Heart Baby over Housemates? Housemates over The Scorpio Races. Woo Woo over The Scorpio Races. The Scorpio Races over Don't Let the Forest In. Don't Let the Forest In over The Weight of the Stars. The Weight of the... most ardently over The Weight of the Stars. The Weight of the Stars over Green Frog. Light from Uncommon Stars versus Green Frog. I think Light from Uncommon Stars. Devil by Name over Green Frog. Green Frog over What Feasts at Night. I didn't hate Green Frog. Headshot over What Feasts at Night. What Feasts at Night over Queen of the Turtle Derby. This Delicious Death over Queen of the Turtle Derby. Jawbone over the Queen of the Turtle Derby. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf versus Now Is Not the Time to Panic. It's gotta be Now Is Not the Time to Panic. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf versus Love is a Mixtape. Love's a Mixtape. Everyone in this room will someday be dead. Your House. Ooh, not out of order. Maybe I'll put Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf over Nothing to See Here. No, I'll click Nothing to See Here. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf over Yellowface, I think. Sunshine Court over Yellowface. Am I crazy? Yeah. The Husbands over Yellowface. Yellowface over Daughter of Smoke and Bone. Glad My Mom Died over Daughter of Smoke and Bone. Daughter of Smoke and Bone over Iron Widow. Iron Widow over... Our Rise Under the Sea over Iron Widow. Natural Beauty over Iron Widow. Iron Widow over Wake the Bones. And Ember in the Ashes over Wake the Bones. Chlorine over Wake the Bones. My Monticello over Wake the Bones. Wake the Bones over I Survive Capitalism. I'm gonna be crazy. I'm gonna put Pigs over I Survive Capitalism. I Survive Capitalism over Renegades. Renegades over Beautyland. Immediate Family over Beautyland. Queens of Geek over Beautyland, I guess. The Fetishist. I just keep letting the Fetishist get away with so much. The Fetishist over Beautyland. Beautyland over Tillian Technicolor. Tillian Technicolor over Gunk Baby. Gunk Baby over Girls at the Edge of the World. Extraordinaries. No, Girls at the Edge of the World over Extraordinaries. The Late Americans over the Extraordinaries. Robin and Her Misfits. Extraordinaries over the Goth House Experiment. Nothing Special versus the Goth House Experiment. It's gotta be the Goth House Experiment. Someday Somewhere versus Nothing Special. Nothing Special. Ariandante versus An Absolutely Remarkable Thing. Because you want me to die. Because you hate me. Oh god, okay. I was gonna say, I'm gonna try not to let nostalgia like hold me back. It's gonna. There's nothing you can do, babe. We're 75% of the way through. We can do this. I believe in us so hard. Oh my god. An absolutely remarkable thing. Ariandante over Lo-Fi. Lo-Fi over The Measure. Measure over A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor. Adore in the Dark over A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor. Beautifully Foolish Endeavor over Beating Heart Baby. Wolves of Mercy Falls over Beating Heart Baby. Beholder over Beating Heart Baby. True Biz. Confidence over Beating Heart Baby. This Savage Song. Beating Heart Baby over Carve the Mark. Housemates. Woo Woo. The Scorpio Races. Carve the Mark over Don't Let the Forest In. Don't Let the Forest In over The Lilies. Most Ardently. The Weight of the Stars. The Lilies over Light from Uncommon Stars. Light from Uncommon Stars over Our Dark Duet. The Devil by Name versus Our Dark Duet. Sequels that I did not like. Devil by Name versus Our Dark Duet. Gosh, I'm gonna say Our Dark Duet. Whoa. The Devil by Name over Witches of Ash and Ruin. Green Frog. Headshot over Witches of Ash and Ruin. What Feasts at Night. Witches of Ash and Ruin over This Delicious Death. The Memory Police over This Delicious Death. Lake Lore over This Delicious Death. Lake Wood. This Delicious Death over Honey. Honey over Jawbone. Jawbone over A Cigarette Lit Backwards. A Cigarette Lit Backwards over Queen of the Turtle Derby. An Absolutely Remarkable Thing versus Now Not the Time to Panic. Now is not the time to panic. An Absolutely Remarkable Thing versus Love is a Mixtape. Love is a Mixtape? An Absolutely Remarkable Thing versus Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead. An Absolutely Remarkable... No. Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead. An Absolutely Remarkable Thing versus Fever House. I'm gonna say An Absolutely Remarkable Thing. Ariandante versus Fever House. Ariandante. Lo-Fi versus Fever House. Fever House. Lo-Fi versus Una Out of Order. Una out of order. Lo-fi versus Nothing to See Here. I'm gonna say lo-fi. Nothing to See Here versus The Measure. Nothing to See Here. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf versus The Measure. I'm gonna put The Measure. I don't know. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf over A Door in the Dark. The Sunshine Court over A Door in the Dark. The Husbands over Yellowface. A Door in the Dark over I'm Glad My Mom Died. A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor. Wolves of Mercy Falls. Beholder. True Biz. Confidence. This Savage Song versus I'm Glad My Mom Died. I'm Glad My Mom Died. This Savage Song versus Daughter of Smoke and Bone. Daughter of Smoke and Bone? This is this an unpopular opinion? This Savage Song over Our Wives Under the Sea. Beating Heart Baby. Housemates. Woo Woo. Our Wives Under the Sea over The Scorpio Races. Natural Beauty over The Scorpio Races. Iron Widow. Scorpio Races over Iron Widow. Iron Widow over Carve the Mark. Carve the Mark over An Ember in the Ashes. I don't know. Literally don't ask me. Don't Let the Forest In over An Ember in the Ashes. Most Ardently. An Ember in the Ashes over The Weight of the Stars. Chlorine. My Monticello. Quake the Bones. Weight of the Stars over Pigs. I'm gonna go Pigs. Ah! Weight of the Stars over I Survive Capitalism. The Lilies over I Survive Capitalism. Light from Uncommon Stars. Our Dark Duet. Top of My Name. Green Frog. Headshot. What Feast at Night. Sebastian Ruin. Memory Police. I Survive Capitalism over Lake Lore, I think. Lake Lore versus Renegades. Renegades. Immediate Family versus Lake Lore. Immediate Family. Queens of Geek. The Fetishist. Beautyland. Tillian Technicolor. Okay, Lake Lore over Gunk Baby. Lakewood over Gunk Baby? Gunk Baby over Lakewood. Lakewood over Girls at the Edge of the World. Girls at the Edge of the World over This Delicious Death. This Delicious Death over The Late Americans. 97%. The Late Americans over... No, Honey over the Late Americans. The Late Americans over Jawbone. Jawbone... No, Robin and Her Misfits over Jawbone. Extraordinaries over Jawbone. Goth House Experiment versus Jawbone. Jawbone. Cigarette Lick Backwards versus The Goth House Experiment. Goth House Experiment. Nothing Special versus A Cigarette Lit Backwards. I think Nothing Special. A Cigarette Lit Backwards over Someday Somewhere. Someday Somewhere over Queen of the Turtle Derby. Oh my god, we're done. Oh my god, we did it. Oh my god, we're done. Favorite book of the year. Now Is Not the Time to Panic by Kevin Wilson. Followed by Love is a Mixtape. Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead. An Absolutely Remarkable Thing. Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World. Beaver House. Una Out of Order. Lo-Fi. Nothing to See Here. The Measure. Honorable mentions, I guess, would be Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, The Sunshine Court, The Husbands, Yellowface, and A Door in the Dark. Husbands should have been higher, I think. That feels wrong. And then bottom 10, This Delicious Death, Honey, The Late Americans, Robin and Her Misfits, The Extraordinary Series, Jawbone, The Goth House Experiment, Nothing Special, A Cigarette Lit Backwards, Someday Somewhere, and in last place, Queen of the Turtle Derby. Wow, that was a lot. That was a lot. But now we know. Now I know. Now you know. I hope you enjoyed it. It might have gotten a little repetitive there at the end, just listing the book titles over and over again, but I had a good time. Thank you so much for watching. My Goodreads, everything is linked in the description, and I'll see you next time for my next video. I think it's gonna be my January wrap up. So stay tuned. I'd love to have you back. That's it. Bye.